And always a warm welcome for U.S. Member of Congress Diane Black from Tennessee. How you doing, Congresswoman?
I am great, Lars. I hope you are as well.
I'm doing very well. The weather outside is fine. I had a wonderful Independence Day, and now I get a chance to turn on the news and watch John Kerry make excuses for why we're still sitting at a table with the Iranians. And I'd like to hear your take on what you think America ought to do before we do any kind of business with Cuba.
Well, I think that we should tell Castro that he needs to take back the 21,000 illegal immigrants that are here in this country that have committed crimes that ICE has put at the level 1. These are the most serious criminals. I think he should take all of them back to his jails and take care of them there rather than us here in this country.
Well, I think that's a terrific idea. And what's the likelihood that we can pressure the administration to actually do that?
Well, we're giving it a try. As in anything else, you got to try first. But we have sent a letter along with 19 of the other members, my fellow members of Congress, to ask the president these questions of why, as he develops these relationships with Cuba and opens that door. I don't understand that to begin with, but we know he's not a very good negotiator. We're seeing that in other ways as well. We're just asking him the question, why are you not getting some concessions for opening the relationships with Cuba and opening up an embassy on the shores of Havana?
I don't think either one of us would see eye to eye with the president, but Congresswoman, you're a whole lot closer to him than I am, physically, at least geographically. Do you have any read as to why the president is doing this, why he's rolling over so easily and saying, let's make friends with people who've been... they've been aiders and abettors of terrorists in other countries. They've not done our country any favors. They're a bad bunch down there. Why does this president want to cozy up to them?
I cannot tell you. I wish that I could read his mind on this and really understand it, because until the end of May, they were listed by the federal government as a state sponsor of terrorism. All of a sudden, we now want to open up normalcy with them. I don't understand it. I don't see what benefit it is to our country. But if the president is going to move in this direction and do that, we ought to get something for it. At the very least, they ought to take back these folks that are here from their country illegally, number one. And number two, they're bad actors. They are the worst of the worst. And as I say, they are the level 1 with our ICE administration, and they need to take them back. We've had them in our jails. The Supreme Court says that we cannot hold them any longer than what they have been sentenced for. So unlike other criminals that are at that level, that have felonies, and we watch them and monitor them when they're out of jail, we're not even able to do that. They're roaming our streets and committing crimes, and we can't even get them back to their own country because they refuse to take them.
It's funny, Congresswoman, there may be a lot of Americans, I find this in the discussions I have with people who call, who don't realize that if somebody comes into our country illegally and we want to send them back to their home country, the home country has the say-so whether to take them back or not. In fact, wasn't that the case with the Uyghurs, that group of people that China didn't want to take back, but they were from China, so the only place America could send them to get rid of them was China, and I think we had to negotiate for a long time. And as I recall, when China took them back, I think they took them back and put a bullet in their heads.
Yes, you're right. And that is such a shame that we have people here in our country illegally and we have nowhere to send them when their countries won't take them back. And this is an opportunity if the president is going to open this door to some sort of normalcy with Cuba, which, again, I believe is totally wrong. Even Debbie Wasserman Schultz from his own party has said that she believes that it's wrong to open up these relationships. But at the very least, we should get something from it.
Congresswoman, I mentioned at the beginning this response. John Kerry came out today and said, we're not going to sit at the table forever with the Iranians trying to make a deal, but we're not going to leave the table right now because we're making progress. Do you believe the United States is making real progress toward a deal that Americans can stomach with the Iranians when the president wants to let them, stay involved in nuclear technology like they plan to do?
Well, I think we've stayed at the table too long, number one. When you are negotiating with terrorists, as they are, and you keep on delaying the negotiations, well, why would they even make a deal with you? They know that you're going to just keep on coming back to the table, and they're going to get more and more. So I believe we stayed at the table too long. A date was set. The date has been extended twice, and we need to end negotiations, and we need to then just continue holding them accountable with keeping the sanctions on them. And we need to not let up. So we know that they're hurting them, and they wouldn't even come to the table and talk to us if the sanctions weren't hurting them. So from my point of view as a negotiator, I would be walking away from them and just saying, fine, you don't want to negotiate, we'll continue to keep the sanctions up and continue hurting you.
So what do you think President Obama's end game is with this? Because does he just plan to stay at the table until it's very clear that they won't get what America has to have to make this deal work, and then walk away saying, well, we did everything we could? Or do you think he plans to stay at the table long enough that he can tell America, well, this is the best deal we could get, so you're going to have to take it, and then pressure the Congress to be willing to accept it?
I think it's B. I don't understand why. I don't understand a lot of things that this president does, so I'm not in his head. I don't sit down at the table and talk these things over, but at least from my point of view, as I watch the way that he is having relationships with people around the world, we see that he's trying to make friends with our enemies, and yet our friends he's making enemies. So I don't understand it. People that we have had as our friends for years, like Israel, he's making an enemy of them. He's trying to open up negotiations with Russia, the things that he said before this last election with Putin. After the election, I'll be able to do more. So I don't understand his thinking. I think it's put us in dangerous positions. This is already a dangerous world, and I just don't understand why this president decides that he wants to have relationships with people that are our natural enemies.
I actually don't understand why there isn't more pressure on him from people in his own party or his own voter base, because, you know, it's not hard at all to go back 6 years and find the president saying, we will not allow Iran to be involved in enriching uranium at all. So he's gone from, we're not going to let them have anything, to, we're going to take the sanctions off. We're going to let them enrich uranium. We're even going to supply some of the nuclear technology for their country. You would think that even his biggest fans would say, Mr. President, that's more than a 180 from where you were 6 years ago. What explains the new willingness to let the Iranians have what they want when you swore and be damned 6 years ago you weren't going to give them anything?
Well, thank you, Lars, and I appreciate what you do in bringing this to the American people so they can be knowledgeable about what's going on, because unfortunately so many times when I turn on the TV and listen to the news, he's not being held accountable. And I think that people are just going about their days, taking care of their children and working and so on, and not being aware of what this president is doing in the dangerous situations that he's putting us in.
That's a pretty sad situation. Congresswoman, keep up the good work for Tennessee back on Capitol Hill, and we appreciate your time.
You're very welcome. Thank you for having me on.